the main idea of the project was like, rather than populating this whole idea with Danish design, we actually reached out to the local community, asking the local inhabitants to nominate elements from their other home country. Because it would be strange if the Danish had designed the best bench in the world, and the best trash bin, and the best street lamp. So almost considering all of planet Earth as an ongoing urban laboratory, we asked people to nominate things from their culture that could sort of enrich our urban space. So through sort of a series of public meetings, we had like a mailbox where people could nominate things. They could go online and recommend objects. We started populating the space. And the main idea is that we don't eat Indian food or Chinese food to be nice to the Chinese. It has nothing to do with political correctness. It's because we feel like Chinese food. And the same with we don't put a Moroccan fountain to be nice to the Moroccans. It's because Morocco has this like centuries-long tradition for artificial water features. So right now we're sort of building this Moroccan fountain in Copenhagen. We have a mussel beach that combines elements from Venice in Los Angeles, Thailand, China. This outrageous Estonian swing. Actually, right now we have a liability issue with the swing. Like we have a slide from Ukraine. It's from Chernobyl. We had to like make a copy because the original is radioactive. The sign on the red square is a sign from the red square. And even if you take something as simple as bollards from Ghana, when you put them in a sort of great Scandinavian context, they become these sort of incredibly exotic elements. And so like, it became like almost like a sort of architectural safari, just looking for cool stuff. From Canada, we found a bicycle rack that had a bicycle pump in it. Like the Danes should have invented this, but the Canadians did. Like even down to the manhole covers, because the majority of the population, or the immigrants population, are Muslims. From Israel, we specified like an inch-thick steel manhole cover that should be completely resistant to any kind of expression of frustration. And when you start looking at benches, for instance, it becomes almost like a social study on the different cultures. You know, a Mexican bench, an S-curve where you can actually look the person you're sitting next to in the eyes, a Belgian bench that does the opposite, everybody's looking away from each other. So like, you know, as architects, we just did this sort of exploration of all these ideas that are already out there. All we had to do was sort of bring them together. This amazing slide from Japan, a giant octopus. We have a snow cannon from Sweden. These bird houses from a park in Holland. The trees in the red square are actually all red. In China, we found palm trees that actually grow in snow. So without any kind of artificial enhancement, these palm trees are now planted in Copenhagen. And then finally, sort of, one of the main sort of signifiers that you're actually in a foreign culture is sometimes the advertisement. So as a series of sculptural lamps, we put on these giant neon signs that advertise stuff you can't buy in Denmark. My favorite is it's a sign for a dentist in Qatar. But of course on the red square you have this sort of a little forest of artifacts from the former Soviet Union, including Moscovite, which reportedly is one of the worst cars ever produced. So you can say like the whole idea of this super park, if you like, is to so rather than sort of perpetuating this sort of stereotype of a sort of ethnically and culturally homogeneous Denmark, it's like revealing the true sort of cultural diversity of contemporary Copenhagen. Sort of a last sort of category of projects that I'd like to share that we've been sort of looking into recently is has to do with infrastructure. And sort of it's quite commonly known that yesterday's infrastructure is today's culture and leisure. For instance, tonight I'm going to Park City, Utah, which is like this like beautiful ski resort, but that actually used to be a mining town. The first ski lifts in the world were actually repurposed mining infrastructure when they didn't have to drag, silver down from the mountain. They all of the miners went bankrupt and they started skiing instead. So the smokestacks of the past have now become snow cannons in today's Park City. Of course, it was the host of the Olympics, and it's famous for the Sundance Festival, where the closing party is tomorrow night. And also it has the Kimball Art Center, which is another element of repurposed infrastructure. It's a former garage that has been turned into an art museum, and they wanted to sort of expand the art museum. Right next to the Kimball Art Museum, in the background you see one of the sort of relics of the mining history, the Coalition Building, which was like this big box out of wood, rising above the skyline of otherwise like a two-story village. And of course, like Park City has the majority of the population is sort of Scandinavian or sort of Northern European descent. And one of the sort of local vernaculars is log cabin construction, where you actually build with solid wood, where the wood is so thick that it's both structural, it's the surface of the building, and it's also insulating. The sort of classic log cabins. They also use them for industrial buildings. This old silo, and it has like these really beautiful sort of joints. And even the sort of the local Navajo Indians actually use logs and the sort of structural properties of the solid timber to create these domed spaces. Finally, across the Salt Lake, they used to have a railroad, and because of the high density of salt, the wood has actually turned into almost like mineral form. It's called trestle wood, and it has like this quite amazing color and texture. So we were sort of accumulating all these different things and trying to see if we could somehow turn the sort of the heritage of the sort of industrial past into a sort of a cultural future, into some kind of driving idea of the project. The site is located off Main Street, and with the new sort of highway passing by, the entrance to the city is sort of coming in at an angle. So we looked at sort of preserving the existing garage as a learning center, then concentrating the art museum and the public functions into one single new building. There's two big galleries for art. One of them is sort of laid down along the Main Street, and the other one is sort of elevated to receive people coming into town as sort of a city gate, and that sort of provides the building with its orientation. And then basically we sort of went to work on trying to see if the tectonics of this sort of log cabin construction could actually sort of be reinvented. Today, like, wood is almost always a veneer or like some kind of fake surface, but to actually do something that's truly wood. Also, we always do our models in foam, but for once we actually sort of assemble the model in the actual material it's built from. So basically, just because of the thickness of the wood, as we sort of rise, we can just shift each piece of each log just a little bit. That actually allows us to do this like quite complex geometry, but with a completely traditional material. And then having the artwork contained in sort of climate-controlled galleries in the middle, and then the framework created by the logs. So if you look at the old industrial buildings, they used to be like steel machines sitting inside wooden frames. And in a similar way, like the galleries are like these steel structures, like inside each of the galleries we can control the humidity and the temperature to preserve the artwork. And then in the space in between you have the lobby and the restaurant and the circulation sort of moving along the logs.